Back when I reviewed horror at Ain't It Cool News, I developed what I called a found footage checklist. I did this mainly because the found footage subgenre had become so abundant in the aughts and early 20-teens, and a lot of them made the same exact mistakes. Sure, there were some diamonds in the rough, films like Found Footage 3D, Devil's Pass, As Above, So Below, The Last Exorcism, and a few others did right with the found footage template. But more often than not, my checklist would weed out exactly what I found wrong with the film as succinctly as I could. Screambox just released a new found footage film from the UK called Underground. Let's see how this one stands up to the found footage checklist in a segment I call Found Footage 101. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Underground is new, streaming on Screambox. It's directed by Lars Janssen and written by Lars Janssen and Charlotte Dawn Potter. Let's start out with what's it all about. Ella, played by Makey Toll, is about to get married, and her best friends are getting together to throw her a truly epic bachelorette party. But one of the bachelorette barfs in the back of a cab, and the cab driver kicks them out in the middle of nowhere. While wandering around in the dark, the group stumble into a tunnel system under Guernsey in the Channel Islands in the UK. These tunnels have been left unoccupied after the Second World War, but it appears the lost bachelorettes have awakened something in them as they desperately try to find their way to the surface. So does this found footage seem authentic and untouched by additional production? The reason why I ask this question is that I believe the reason to make a found footage film, other than it being a cheap movie to make, that is that it forces the first-person point of view on the audience, immersing the viewer into the situation through the eyes of one of its participants. This can be a powerful tool in filmmaking, if done right. You're thrown right into the action. A filmmaker must try to make things feel as if the footage was truly found, for it to get me. This means no other hands are laid upon the footage. The more hands on it, in production, the less authentic the footage feels to me. So unless these girls are John Slade from I'm Gonna Get You Sucka,
let's get it on.
Who are these guys?
It's my theme music. Every good hero should have some.
they should not have someone with a synthesizer providing music where music shouldn't be. Now, early in the movie, the gals visit the club, and I can understand that they most likely couldn't use the music played by the DJ, and a song is played over that section of the film. Now, I was willing to forgive the movie for that, but once in the tunnels, the only thing resonating should be the gals' chatter, their footsteps, and whatever is threatening them. Instead, we get quite a few moments of music leading up to the upcoming scares. This not only kills the suspension of disbelief that this footage was found and unaltered, but it also kills any suspension at all, as it's a surefire indication something is going to be jumping out from behind the corner. All this tells me is that the filmmaker didn't feel confident enough to let the footage stand on its own and needed a crutch, like the music, to cheat. That's bad form. The film is consistent and only uses one camera, never cheating by showing angles from cameras that shouldn't be there or edits between two cameras rolling at once, so at least it does that right. Are the actors successfully acting like they aren't acting? Another thing that adds to the authenticity of the found footage film is that the actors have to feel natural. Now, these are gals all gussied up for a night on the town, so they all look great, and not like people you'd see in the real world, unless you're going out to the club on a Saturday night. But it is important that lines don't feel like lines. The more natural the banter, the more believable it is. I'll give it to Underground. It does a good job of nailing the constant banter and speaking over each other that occurs when a group of intoxicated people are filmed for an extended period of time. While watching five gals babble nonstop for an hour and a half might not be everyone's cup of tea, at least the interactions felt genuine, and I never felt as if anyone was reading straight from a script. Why don't they just drop the camera and get the hell out of there? I don't know about you, but as soon as I see or hear something horrifying, my first instinct would not be to keep the camera rolling. I would drop it and beat feet the other way. But this being a movie requiring a feature-length runtime, it is the film's duty to let us know why the camera has not been dropped and left behind. Underground makes sure to drive the point home that the gals are filming everything so that Ella and her soon-to-be partner can look back and laugh about the night as it unfolds. Later, keeping the camera rolling is less about this, but keeping a record of the experience is still enforced all the way through. The camera also makes for a good light source, so that's another reason it's needed in these dark tunnels. Is there an up-nose Blair Witch confessional or a wreck drag away from the camera? Back when I was watching a found footage film or 3 a week, every other one of them had a moment where the camera holder is alone and confessing something big to the camera or commenting on how this will document what happens if they aren't recovered. Basically, it's the snot shot confessional we endured in The Blair Witch Project. In every other moment, the final shot of the film swiped the final seconds of wreck, where the last to hold the camera is dragged away out of view and then fade to black. Thankfully, neither of these tired cliches show up in Underground. So there's another thing it has going for it. Does anything actually happen? Is the lead-in too long and the payoff too short? Well, too many times found footage films are arduous to follow. It's why it's gotten such a bad rap in the first place. There's the usual 30-minute getting to know you lead-in time where everything is hunky-dory, or at least those with the camera do not notice the horror looming in the periphery. Then things start going sideways, slowly in the second half, culminating to a lot of shaky cam and a lot of screaming in the last few minutes. Now, if your cast is interesting, I'm often more forgiving of the getting to know you time and the slow build towards the end, because I'm enjoying the characters and their interactions. Now, with Underground, your mileage will vary. I think many will feel these drunk lost gals are annoying as shit as they alternate between joking around and telling each other this is seriously serious every 5 minutes. There's definitely a pacing issue with Underground. There's a conflict in the last half hour that should have been brought up when things were just getting intense in the second half hour when they initially become lost. Instead, it's brought up after the real threat has shown its ugly head, and everything the gals are arguing about seems absolutely trivial compared to the fact that their lives are in danger. So once the weirdness shows up, I don't give two shits if Becky never really liked Trudy, or Florence never felt heard by the rest of her friends. Those aren't the names of the gals, but you know what I mean. I was invested because I found the cast to be likable and believable for the most part, but once the claws came out in the last 15 minutes, I was rooting for them to die while they had their airing of grievances session. Shit wraps up very quickly in the end when an out-of-the-blue call basically tells the gals what to do, and then they do it, and everything works out, and thus leaving this viewer with an unsatisfied taste in my mouth. Does the film add anything to the subgenre, or is it worth watching? Ultimately, Underground feels like a found footage film made by people who haven't seen a lot of found footage films. The budget is low, but that's no excuse. Some solid direction and well-placed noises and well-played performances have saved their fair share of lo-fi found footagers. I never felt as if the characters were truly in danger because the evil they encounter in the tunnels has no real rhyme or reason. I get it. This bunker once was occupied by the Nazis, and Nazis are bad. But there are too many random elements tossed in, and it doesn't seem like the filmmaker cared to attempt to make any sense of any of them. The film has 2 twists, one involving who survives, according to the news interview we see at the beginning, and the other is a surprise that is so unnecessary that it doesn't even need to be mentioned because the sex of who Elle is marrying has nothing to do with the plot itself. It just feels like the focus of Underground was on all of the wrong things in terms of me being invested in these lost gals' survival. And if you don't care about the cast, And if the film is doing everything it can to break the suspension of disbelief that this footage is in fact found, there really is no point in watching it. Except for the fact that I did, so you don't have to. Thanks for attending this session of Found Footage 101. If you saw Underground, let me know what you thought about it. And what are your thoughts on my found footage checklist? And the found footage subgenre in general? Let me know down in the comments.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside that reality.